Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. We have some really interesting and kind of breaking news as Dylan Raiola taking a sneaky visit up to Lincoln, Nebraska. Obviously, it's the dead period for a lot of these high school recruits, but not Dylan Raiola at Nebraska because he has an uncle who's obviously coaching the offensive line. I'm sure many of you guys know that, but that means he's allowed to take a visit to go visit family members. And I think this could be a really special visit for Nebraska and Dylan Raiola because you look at most of those weekends, there's other recruits and other potential commits that are visiting the program. This is a very, almost in a way, sentimental recruitment and visit because he's the only prospect on campus. He's getting the special treatment. And that's quite frankly what you need to land a guy like Dylan Raiola. Before we get into it, I just want to say thank you to you guys. Talking Nebraska football, talking the recruiting trail and Matt Rule has been an absolute blast. And I say this every time I talk Nebraska football. Was up there for a game. I'm obviously a Michigan fan. Was up there watching Michigan in Lincoln the other year, and that is a special place. And those fans care so much about the football up in Lincoln, Nebraska. And the support you guys have shown as we talk Nebraska football truly means a lot. We talk a lot of Nebraska football. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We really do appreciate the support you guys have shown. So let's get into this recruitment process. So Dylan Raiola obviously was committed to Ohio State until this fall. He decommits from Ohio State. And then there's been a couple other teams to emerge as potential suitors for Dylan Raiola. Nebraska being one, and obviously the family connections is probably the strongest point in that recruitment. The other programs that are making a push, Georgia, what are they selling? They're selling, you come to Georgia, you're going to be competing for a national championship. They seem to establish themselves as that team in college football, kind of taking over Alabama. And then the other team outside of Ohio State that he was already committed to, no doubt he's still thinking about it, is USC. And what is USC selling? USC is selling, if you want to go to the NFL draft, you want to be a top 3 pick in the NFL draft, Lincoln Riley has a pretty damn good track record at developing quarterbacks to go play and succeed at the next level in the NFL. And then Nebraska, their selling point is come be a legacy, come make a legacy at Nebraska, right? He obviously has the family connections. This is a historic blue blood program that has struggled for the last decade. Dylan Raiola has the potential, and he truly does have the potential as a singular recruit to come into Nebraska and change the trajectory of this program and be kind of a living legend for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And Dylan Raiola, growing up in a Nebraska football household, knows how much that means. He's been around the program. He's been around Big Red football for his whole life. He knows how passionate those fan bases are. And no doubt the potential of being that guy to help change the trajectory of this program means a lot to Dylan Raiola. So taking a look at where we might be leaning with this recruitment, Georgia, Ohio State, USC are obviously all in the running. You have to respect those programs in the recruiting prowess. They've absolutely killed it on the recruiting trail for the last couple of years. But it does seem like Nebraska's in a really, really good spot. And what I'm eyeing is when you talk about recruitment, when you talk about doing the crystal balls, a lot of those guys look at how many visits have you taken to each program. And with his uncle being there, with his dad having played there, he's been on campus a lot. He's getting kind of that special treatment when it comes to heading to Nebraska. And that's a really, really exciting prospect for these Nebraska fans because if you can land Dylan Raiola and you can land him at some point in the summer, I mean, that 2024 class can be something really special. We kind of saw it with the Arch Manning effect. When Arch Manning commits to Texas, every single recruit in that 2023 class started taking visits to Texas. And then if Arch Manning calls you and is going to give you a recruiting pitch, you're picking up the phone. Whether you're committed to Oklahoma, whether you're committed to Alabama, Georgia, you're picking up the phone and you're listening to what Arch Manning has to say. Dylan Raiola kind of holds some of that power as well. When you commit to a program, other elite athletes, elite football players, they want to go play for you too. What I want to take a look at, though, is this March 25th visit. So Dylan Raiola, he's visiting Nebraska right now in the dead period because he can and his uncle's there. But he's also scheduled to take another visit back there on March 25th. Know who else is supposed to be visiting during March 25th is Williams Anwanari from Missouri. He's the number 3 player nationally, the number 1 defensive lineman in this 2024 class. I mean, when you talk about big-time recruiting weekends, this could be an all-timer for Nebraska. And then what are we going to add to this? We're going to add KJ Bolden tweeting out on Twitter, and I'm going to pull up his tweet for you guys. He's tweeting at Dylan Raiola. He's tweeting at Nebraska football. And this is a guy that's the number 2 prospect in the country. And he's saying, what's good with this 2024 class? That's an extremely and what the rumors are is that he might be visiting also on that March 25th weekend. If you have the top 3 players nationally visiting Nebraska all in the same weekend, I'm not even saying you have to land all 3 of them, but if you can land 1 or 2 of them, that is game-changing for this Nebraska program as you get into the Matt Rhule era. And if you guys know, like we could pull up the Matt Rhule tweet as well. What was it? Last night, Matt Rhule tweets out just a plethora of emojis, one of those famous tweets he has where it's the number 1, which is Dylan Raiola's jersey. It's a flight, and then there's a house emoji. So he's flying back home. That if you're trying to put it together, which obviously if you're a sicko college football fan like myself, I'm trying to piece the emojis together. And then the pictures of Dylan Raiola emerge at the Omaha airport. Very nice airport, by the way. It's starting to make a little bit more sense. And the thing we talk about the most with Matt Rhule is everywhere he's been at the college football level, he's won. But what's most interesting, he's always won not necessarily based on recruiting and bringing in talent. And that's something Nebraska's always been able to recruit at a high level, even under Scott Frost. But the problem was the player development was lacking. And putting those players in positions where they can succeed just wasn't happening. Matt Rhule is kind of on the other side of the pendulum. At Baylor, they were still kind of dealing with some of those recruiting restrictions from the sanctions they had. And then Temple, you're not going to be able to recruit very well at Temple. But what was Matt Rhule able to do? Was able to have the players that he had and figure out ways to put them in spots where they could succeed, develop them so they could be NFL draft picks, they could be all-conference kind of players. That's what's most exciting because Matt Rhule is going to be able to recruit at Nebraska. He's going to be able to get the most talent he's ever had in a college football room in his whole career throughout the college football level. And then what do you couple that with? You couple it with elite developing. And Matt Rhule is kind of proven to be one of the best college football coaches in the country. And that's why it was such an intriguing hire. And there weren't many outside of maybe Luke Fickell. There probably weren't many other college football coaches that I, as kind of a pseudo-Nebraska fan, wanted Nebraska to have. And he's got off to a great start in that 2023 class when you look at how well he closed that 2023 class. And then Roger Gradney already in the 2024 class. This could be a really special class for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, But if they can land Dylan Raiola, that is where it gets really special. You land your future quarterback, and then I think a lot of chips and a lot of dominoes will fall beneath them when you take a look at other wide receivers that want to go play with the number 1 quarterback in the class. Offensive linemen that want to go protect the number 1 quarterback in the class. And then you have Dylan Raiola calling all these commits that he's camped with, that he's known on other visits and saying, come check out what Nebraska has to offer in this 2024 class. This is an extremely exciting time, and we're obviously going to continue to monitor it. He's obviously going to take his visits to the other programs as well. But if Nebraska can somehow land Dylan Raiola, I think this 2024 class has the bones to be something really, really special. And you've seen this in the future. People, kind of what Coach Prime is doing with Colorado. Like, they're gravitating to this new culture that's being built in Colorado. I think a lot of players are gravitating to this new culture and this new way that Nebraska's building. And they know, and if they step on campus, they see the passion in this fan base. They want to be a part of the change in this program. An extremely exciting time for the Nebraska Cornhusker fans. Wanted to hop on, talk a little bit about it. But again, KJ Bolden, Dylan Raiola, Williams Enuanari, this could be a massive recruiting weekend for Nebraska and, quite frankly, a massive 2024 class. So, again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you guys for real. And go Big Red as always. You'll always see, unless they're playing Michigan, I'll be rooting for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. I appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.